So I'm Sammy Aaron with the Resilient Activists, and I want to welcome you to today's climate conversations with Sheryl Hammontree, the founder of Thoughtful. Wait a minute, I'm losing all my notes here. Thoughtful Threads, and Sheryl has been. We've been in contact a couple times about a couple different projects going on, and I just want to introduce her a little bit. Thoughtful Threads is expressive apparel for empowered people. Cheryl believes that what we wear can radiate positive vibes inside and out, and so she created Thoughtful Threads. It delivers heart-centered expressive clothing for anyone who wishes to supercharge connection by spreading messages of empowerment, equality, love, and kindness. I'm wearing my Unite t-shirt here today. So over the past year, especially, Cheryl has made a little shift in her business. Um, from the thread she chooses to the packaging she uses, she's focused on working with sustainable materials and fair trade, environmentally friendly garments that respect people and protect our precious planet. So I want to thank you, Cheryl, and I'm going to let you just introduce yourself and take it away. Just whatever you'd like to say about your background. There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sammy. Excuse me. I appreciate the opportunity. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
good.
I was making sure because I was watching my little squares up in the top. So yes, I'm Cheryl, and I started Thoughtful Threads with the intent of, did something just happen? Sorry, I'm trying to
You're
see.
okay.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. So I started Thoughtful Threads with the intent of spreading positivity into our world, which quite frankly, I think we need. We became more aware not too many years ago, I think, as things changed and there was a need. So a little bit about my background. My very first job in high school was actually at a little ad agency. And I did product illustration and I prepped artwork for print and cut ribulith and did paste up and all the old school stuff. And a very important day in 1984, I came into work and all of our art tables had been pushed to the back of the property and we had Apple computers on our desk. So I was born at the right time so that I learned the old school way and could appreciate the process and why we did what we did. And I was also on that very front edge of desktop publishing and learning to use a Mac. So I kept that job all through high school and college, and having 5 years of Apple Macintosh skills, including the coming of all the Adobe products in 1988, made it pretty easy to get a job right out of college. So I started working in Kansas City advertising and I loved it. Advertising is exciting, it's high paced, it's energetic, it's creative, which I love all things creative. It's collaborative and I love to collaborate. So it wasn't even like work. I just loved it. And I remember specifically in a meeting one day thinking, it's so cool that we take words and images, and when they're presented just right, we can literally shift human behavior, which is what advertising is. We take pictures and phrases and words and jingles and all those things, and we're all hit with those every single day. And when it's done just right and targeted at you, it can change your behavior. It can make you buy something or not buy something, or recycle, or travel to a different destination you never thought about. So again, words, pictures done right shift human behavior. So I kept working in Kansas City advertising, loved it. And I decided that I really wanted more of the process, because when you're in an agency, it's a big company. There's a lot of people in the process. And as a designer, art director, I had a very specific role. And I always wanted to learn more of the client side and what they were doing and like, what's their problem? What's the strategy? And I wanted to see the results as well. And so at some point when I was about 27, I think I was 27, I decided to quit my job and start my own design studio and go get my own clients because I wanted to learn. I'm a bit of a serial learner, and I thought it would be cool to meet the client, understand their need, help them develop a strategy, and then put words and images together to change human behavior. Loved it. Never looked back. I still do it today. I still do a lot of freelance design work. And so now we'll table that. And on the side, along with designing and creating things, I love to exercise. I love to be outside. And through a crazy twist of events in 2006, I found myself coaching, managing, and then owning a little gym in Kansas City while I still had my design studio. And while I think a gym and advertising seem really opposite, there's a lot of crisscross. So a lot of what I learned in advertising translated into owning this little gym. And so I created this energetic, colorful space. I designed exercise workout routines that inspired people to work out. I created events, and of course, I had a t-shirt line within my gym, and we had little contests. And what I ultimately found is that I built this little community. And again, so the right message with the right images delivered properly shifts human behavior. So people come in, they want to get fit, they want to understand nutrition and exercise. And so I create t-shirts and posters and events and programming. And I think that's when there was a pretty big shift in my head, like, wow, like I seem to have a knack, whether it's my love of community or my ability to communicate, whatever it is. And I really thought that my big thing in life was going to be that I'd be a coach forever. I ultimately was a coach for 15 years, and through another crazy twist of events, I wound up losing my gym at the end of 2019, which I think I should probably be glad for because I would have lost it for sure in 2020. And about that same time, I decided to start this t-shirt company. And I did that largely because of what happened, I think, in 2016. Most of us were like, what's happening? Like, I don't recognize my world. And I had taken a lot of things for granted. And the environmental rollbacks that were threatening the planet, the attitudes and the legislation that were oppressing so many people, I mean, women, my family and friends who were gay and Black and Jewish. And I just, like, it was all starting to make me ache. And that's when I thought, I've had enough. Like, I have this skill set and I have the ability to design. And I mean, I know how to make a logo and name a company, and I can build a website and I can make all these things. So I'm just going to make t-shirts, and I'm going to start selling them and giving them away and spread some positivity in this crazy negative world. So that's what I did. And somewhere along the way, I think about a year and a half in, I was sourcing some new t-shirts, and I was reading about this company called Allmade. And I suggest in your free time, you take a look at allmade.com. They have an amazing story, which I'll share a little bit of that with you later. And one of their sayings is, wear your values. I was like, oh, well, I've been so worried about putting thoughtful messages that I forgot to make sure the shirt itself was actually thoughtful. So I started looking into this company, which of course took me down the rabbit hole of research, which I love to do. And I was just appalled at the textile industry and apparel itself. It sickened me, actually. And to know that the textile industry is the second largest polluter of our planet, second only to oil, is shocking. And it's not even just polluting. It is an absolute suck of resources. And then the people who sew these are treated terrible. And I decided that even though it was going to dramatically affect my margin, it was really wrong to call myself Thoughtful Threads if I wasn't really being actually thoughtful about the threads themselves. And so I started the shift to eco-friendly garments as best I could, and eco-friendly packaging. So if any of you order a shirt from me, it will arrive in a package that you can, once you pull the shirt out, the whole thing can go in your composter, not your recycle bin, but your composter. Um, and so those things have been, it's empowering to make those changes. I feel good about them. And I think for the first time since I started this company, I feel like it's actually a reflection of my values. And so I feel like I sort of became a little more than a t-shirt store online. I became, it sounds haughty, but I feel like a movement. Like, I feel like I need to tell everybody, like, stop buying those cheap shirts at Target. They're trendy. They're fast fashion. They're just going to end up in the landfill. Buy the right things and know what you're wearing. So
So,
here I am.
so Cheryl, let me interject a little bit here. So, part of the this particular program is an interview with a visionary activist, and I think what's important. We'll get into more of the technical changes that you made in your business and that kind of thing in a little bit, but I want to hear a little bit more about, I think it's important for people to see your journey and to know that everything, you didn't wake up one morning when you were, graduating college and said, I'm going to have a t-shirt company that's all, sustainable. Like you went through all these different pathways. And my guess is that there were some setbacks. There were some maybe problems you wanted to solve or some things that didn't happen very easily. And so, what else, as far as coming into this, you've mentioned the elections in 2016 and some of the other things, coronavirus and so on, but like what else has kind of impacted your actually being able to step into the vision?
So I'll probably have to go back to even when I was a little kid, and I won't dwell on this too awful much, but I was raised very conservative. My family, I went to church literally 5 and 6 days a week. I was brought up in a home clearly loved immensely by my parents, but I believe that they struggled a little bit with my, we'll just call it spirit. I was a high energy kid, very questioning, outspoken. Um, I think my mom was a little challenged with what to do with me at times. I wasn't really interested in sort of the provincial plan, which was, seriously, I was raised that like girls didn't really need to go to college and they weren't really like business owners and they weren't necessarily leaders. I mean, the plan probably laid out for me early on was that I would stay in the church, marry, have children, and make a great casserole. And I just didn't want to do that. I was a little more interested in sports and outdoors. I loved bugs. Oh my God, I loved bugs. And I had this crazy imagination. And so I just remember as a little kid being told to be quiet, girls should be quiet, boys are loud, boys are dirty. And I remember thinking, God, I wish I was a boy because they just get to have so much more fun. And while both my parents were very conservative, my dad, I think, had a bit of a maverick background in his upbringing. And so he kind of recognized some of my behaviors. And though finding me challenging, I think he was encouraging to step out and do things on my own. So I think early on, my love of animals and bugs and just wanting to like everybody and wanting to have an opinion and people consider it valued and relevant and not just, oh, you're a girl, be quiet. That kind of started some of it. Then along the way, I mean, it was my parents actually, they had no intention of paying for my college. They did pay for my brother's. They didn't pay for mine. And I wanted to go to college. So I still had that job I mentioned earlier where I was working in a little in-house ad agency. And then I was working on campus doing like t-shirt designs for fraternity and sorority parties. I did whatever I could. I mowed lawns. I did whatever I could to make money to stay in school. And I think some of those things along the way just built that resilience and that, I'm not going to quit. Like, I know this is really hard and I know that it's a high hill to climb, but I just really want to summit that thing. I mean, I'm not going to quit. It's what I want. So I think that was it's an ongoing theme. And again, being on the very front edge of the Macintosh, and I was a girl. And so, I mean, I got a pretty good job right out of college just because I had all that Mac knowledge, helping companies get started and get on that path to digital publishing. So again, a bit of a trailblazer. I was awfully young. I mean, I remember being told, well, you're awfully young to have this kind of experience. Are you sure? So there's a part of me that feels like I've always sort of had to push what the expectations were. Um, and I embraced that again as a female gym owner. So I remember being at the gym many times, and some of my other coaches were guys. And here I was, like 5'4", 120 pounds, 50 years old, gym owner. And people would come in the door and they'd immediately walk up to the guys and go, "Hey, you own this place?" And they'd be like, "Nope, she does." And then they'd go, "Oh, you do?" And in time, there was the respect was brought, but again, overcoming the expectation and really using the tools that I had to look those obstacles and consider them opportunities. Once I started the company, I had a legal challenge where I had filed for a trademark. Like a good business owner and a good creative person, I made these 3 logos. I named these different lines of apparel. I contacted an attorney, did all the right things, filed for trademark, actually received 2 of the registered trademarks on 2 of them, but 1 came back and they said there was an issue. Somebody had filed 2 months ahead of me. And it was my powerful design. So I was devastated. I thought, oh my gosh, like this has been the flagship design that's really kind of started this company and got it going. And without question, sales were like, 10 powerful shirts to 1 of the other designs. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is my end. Like somebody else owns this and they're going to keep me from using it. And, legal had all kinds of warnings, like don't do this, don't do that. And maybe we should contact him and get legal representation and blah, blah, blah. And I just decided one day, I think I'm going to reach out to this guy and I'm just going to say, hey, you beat me to it, but we're both trying to do the same thing. So if you're cool with it, I'd like to just keep selling this design. And then at the end of the year, I'll take a percentage of sales from that design and I'll donate it to your foundation. Can we just kind of keep moving forward? And so far that seems to be the plan. And yet again, like an obstacle becomes an opportunity to build a bridge as opposed to build a fence or a wall. And I don't know, I just think starting really early, having things thrown in your path and learning how to jump over them has worked out well.
Yeah, I love that story of shifting. So it's for those of you who aren't familiar, it's powerful, POW, and then like a capital HERFUL. L, is there 2 L's in it? There it is. Okay. And it's her logo on t-shirts and all different things. And it's just that story, that shift of embracing rather than taking someone to court or, so it's just I would say a more resilient philosophy of looking at kind of a bigger picture and is there a bigger way to think about this? So I honor that you did that. I also want to say if any of you are on the call that want to interject and ask questions or anything, please feel free to just unmute yourself. And does anybody have anything at this point that they want to ask?
I had a quick question because I think a lot of people get those roadblocks and they react differently. And I just wondered if you could maybe share, thinking back, like in your childhood, what maybe it was or what really kind of helped you, if there is something, maybe you sometimes we're not even aware, but I just think it is so powerful to understand that you took those roadblocks and kept on going, even when your family wasn't necessarily supportive of you. And if there's something you can point to or, something like that to kind of help explain why you took one path to just jump over or find your way through it versus other people who let those things kind of hold them back.
Yeah, sure. It's funny because I recently being 5 months ago, started working with a business coach. And one of the things we kind of unraveled and worked through was that upbringing, that very conservative, you're supposed to be quiet, you're not supposed to get dirty, why are you so outspoken, can't you keep your opinions to yourself, like what it was like to navigate that. And I did a bit of work with this coach on just exactly what you're talking about, and going through that work with her helped me sort of appreciate my own efforts, because I don't think I was doing a very good job of that. And my dad, though very conservative, in fact, my grandfather was one of those hellfire and brimstone Baptist ministers, like, and so my dad grew up in that. But my dad also, he dropped out of high school because he wanted a different, better life. And he joined the Navy when he was 17 and left home, came back, got his GED, and worked very hard to build a life for himself and a professional career that is admirable. He started out cleaning parts at the downtown airport for TWA. He was like mopping floors and cleaning parts. And when he retired 44 years later, he was the director of the entire overhaul facility. And so I think even though he was super conservative, I think there was still a part of him that was enough of a maverick and enough of a, blaze your own path, that he understood, and he understood me. My mom loved me dearly, but I just mystified her. I don't think she had a clue like how to even like get me to do certain things. But my dad really understood me. And he did sort of nurture those. He passed in 2018, and I still think about, we call them in our family Geneisms, because his name was Gene. And he used to say, like, why are you worried about that? Like, you're borrowing trouble. Just go do what you want to do. If you want it, go do it. Or he'd say, payday isn't always every Thursday. You got to work. And sometimes payday comes later. Or he'd say, I would come home and complain about kids at school or the way girls were treating me. And he'd say, well, Sheryl, you've probably noticed that crows don't fly around with eagles. And we just had these little sayings. And so even though at times like the rules were so rigid and so strict, and the expectations were different, I think my dad got it. And then when my mom passed away, and I had a few years with my dad after my mom passed, and he had a big part in it. He would tell me at that point, like, he was proud of me for paying for school and for going after what I really wanted. And so I believe that I got a bit of that from him, even though he made me go to church 6 days a week. And even though he told me not to be such a sass and a smart mouth, and, can't you just color within the lines? And I was like, no, I hate lines. So I think a part of it was just my behavior. And then the other part was I just wanted something different. I just wanted more. I wanted to go to college. I love a challenge. My parents thought I was insane when I wanted to own a gym. I mean, even my dad was like, why are you wanting to own a gym? Like, you already have a career, you have a business. Why do you want to do that? I was like, I don't know, it's fun. I can be friends with these people. I can help them. I can educate them and train them. And it became one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Like, for 15, I get emotional when I talk about it, but that gym was like a family, and it meant so much to me to be able to have women come in who were questioning their attractiveness, their strength, they didn't like how big their butt was, or they didn't like their legs, or they didn't like this or that about themselves. And to teach them like, no, you got a powerful butt, like, you're really strong, you're amazing. And, love your body, love what you can do. And I think being able to also watch and help other people overcome those obstacles and appreciate their value just emboldened me to keep doing the same thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think some of it was really instilled from my childhood, in spite of my childhood.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's very helpful.
Julie, did you have something you wanted to speak up on? Thanks, Vic, for your story too.
I just hit unmute for whatever. I don't know why.
Okay.
You'd think after 14 months, I'd be a Zoom pro right now.
So Cheryl, I don't know if you can see Vic's having issues with the speakers today, but he thanked for your story and thanked you for sharing it. Yeah. So, all right. So the next question then. So you've talked a little bit about who supported you, but let's kind of focus on thoughtful threads and the iterations of thoughtful threads, and who's been your supporters, who has helped you. You've mentioned your coach, a little bit about your husband, but like kind of who are you with? It's not just you personally. It doesn't take just one person to start a business.
No, it's not. Wow. Well, I would have to first give props to my husband because I am a serial entrepreneur. I have started multiple businesses and some of them have taken off and some have been like, that was a learning experience. But he doesn't ever look at me when I have an idea and say, okay, why? Or he doesn't question it. I mean, when I called him one day and said, hey, I think I'm going to take over the gym and own it and we need to move it and build a gym. And he was like, okay, cool. So we did it. And then I, at some point said to him, I think I'm going to take some of the inheritance I got from dad and I'm going to start a t-shirt company, an online store. And I'm going to have events and I'm going to go to women's events and I'm going to set up a booth and I'm going to sell positive messaging t-shirts. And he was like, cool, I'm sure you'll be good at it. And then he just supported me and helped me, whether that was, loading tubs of t-shirts and hauling them across town and setting up a booth or whatever it was. He's just always been supportive and never questioned what I was doing. Also, so I'll harken back to my gym members. Again, I created this just wonderful community of people that were super diverse, like age, background, athleticism. I mean, we had a wonderful collection of people. And a lot of the women that I met in that gym have become lifelong friends. So there's really no way I could have done this without my girlfriends who helped me fold shirts, tag shirts, set up booths, help me run the booths. My mother-in-law was a huge supporter. My sister-in-law, she was actually the person early on when I was thinking about the t-shirt business. I asked my sister-in-law to go to lunch because she has a very big professional background with overseas travel and sourcing, and she's definitely a philanthropic leader in the community and just knows a lot of people. And so I said, here's kind of what I'm thinking about doing with this t-shirt company. What do you think? She was like, do it. And I said, okay, so now I'm going to ask you to hold me accountable because I need you to hold me accountable to think big. I have a habit of like thinking small. It doesn't sound like it, but I do. I have a hard time sometimes thinking outside, like, how can this be bigger? And she was like, yeah, I'm on it. I will hold you accountable. And so she's done a great job of helping me network and meet up with the right people in Kansas City and give me opportunities to get my shirts in certain places and at events. And so I don't think I could have done it without her either. And then a lot of my photographs are family members, my niece, friends. I have a really good friend that's a photographer, and so she's helped me. So yeah, I literally have spent my entire life, I think, preparing for this.
Cool. Yeah, I love because I'm thinking about some of the photographs on the site. So it's just like people who love you put on a t-shirt, take a picture and send it to you. And it might just show up somewhere. Am I saying that correctly?
You got it. Yes. Your picture could show up someday if you just took a picture and sent it to me. But I think I early on, I wanted the shirts to be for real people. I mean, and it's not that, the women in my photographs aren't beautiful. It's just, I didn't want to go like hire models, like stick skinny people I wanted real people with curves and with birthmarks and with moles and, wavy, crazy hair. And I wanted everybody to look at our garments and see themselves. And because, why not? That's who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So what's challenging to you personally in running this business and in the shifts that you've made? Like what's been a little difficult, or what, you know, kind of on a day-to-day basis, what challenges you?
Well, I am impatient. I wish that I was already, this company that I could just do t-shirts and get paid plenty to live, but I still have to have a day job. I still have full-time, excuse me, work that I do, and the t-shirts happen alongside or after that. And sometimes it's challenging to be the one buying the shirt, designing the shirt, getting it to the printer, filling the orders, going to the post office, taking the photos, updating the website, doing the social media. And so by the time you do all of that, it doesn't leave a lot of time to do some of the networking I wish I could do. I do think that the challenge now, I mean, while social media sounds like a great way to get the word out, there's just so many people doing that. It's difficult to stand out. And I've learned over the years, just like with my gym, your best customer comes from a referral. And those are those long-term relationships then that they get roots and legs and they go out into the community, and that's how you find those other people. So my business has grown slow. Like I said, I have to have another job to pay the bills and to support it while it's still taking off. But excuse me, I believe that in time it will get there. So I think my challenge is just getting the day-to-day done, and then finding a way to get exposure so that people know we're out there.
So have you, Cheryl, on that, having the day job to support this and get it going, and you've got a business coach now, have you run your model to see if you could walk away at what and devote all of your time, when would you become in a break even or a profit mode? Have you run those kind of analysis yet?
Oh, yes, I have. And I've scaled back some of my responsibilities I was doing some consulting work and I still do a little bit for a company, but I've scaled that back. We're doing things within our own household to get to where I can dial back more of the day job. And there are definitely challenges, shocking with COVID. Going into 2020, I had 7 really big events lined up, and they were going to be awesome. They were obviously all canceled, and so everything shifted to an online model, and which is fine. And I actually think that I needed that to happen so I could build the backside and be a little more thoughtful about how to make it an online store. Because the truth is, for the rest of my years, I don't want to be hauling my stuff to events. But those events were going to provide the revenue to get it through the year. And the intent was that would be my full focus, but that didn't happen. So I had to keep doing the other stuff, and, maybe it'll shift hopefully in the next year or two, but it is definitely a plan to scale down and put my efforts into it. And that's one of the things I'm working with the business coach.
I have some good friends that have a quilt pattern company, but it takes 2 of them because of the marketing aspect of it is almost the full-time part of it, the production part. And so it's as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of what they have done and that type of thing. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of your workday, you just kind of want to eat your dinner and chill out and read a book. And you're like, nope, got to go do my social media, or nope, I need to go in and update the inventory, or I need to go fill some orders and get ready to go to the post office. So it's just part of it. And that's okay. It's not forever. Being busy and having to go to the post office is a blessing, because that means someone bought a shirt. So I just look at it like that and keep moving forward.
Sounds like you need to create a t-shirt that says something like that, right? Like, all the drudgery is well worth it. And you're going to come up with one word that will exemplify just that. So my question to you from the resilient activist is, how do you maintain your resilience? Like, what do you do personally for your self-care, your mental care, the whole mind, body, spirit? What are you doing right now with your day job, with your night job, and your vision? And, how do you keep yourself sane, healthy, and joyous?
Sometimes that's challenging. However, as I mentioned, I don't always see my work as work. I mean, I'm currently working on a new shirt design that says activist. So yes, I have to work on that, but that's also feeds my soul. I mean, I'm doing illustration, I'm designing, so that's not really work, right? So as long as I'm creating and making something, I'm usually pretty happy. I also garden. Uh, I have been inspired by Sammy and my neighbor, who is a master naturalist, to make some shifts in my own garden. We have a tree that is sadly dying in our backyard, a big linden tree. And rather than cut it down, Sammy inspired me to make that a bit of a home for leave it as a home for the woodpeckers and the owls and the bugs and everything that live around this tree and the little toads that live underneath it. Don't cut it down, leave it, and grow some ivy up it and make it into some artwork. So my husband and I are kind of working on that, and that's fun. I have a vegetable garden. I also love to ride my bike, and I love to hike on the trails at Shawnee Mission Park and at Wyandotte County. And so I usually find my peace when it gets a little kooky crazy. I just go outside, get some sunshine, some fresh air. If it's not sunny, then I just get rain on my face and fresh air, and then everything's better.
I love it. And I love the garden aspect and leaving the tree and the idea of just being out in any weather. And so, one of the things when we talked earlier, you talked a little bit about riding your mountain bike, and like, just if I could invite you, this wasn't something we talked about, but to remember a time when you were in nature and it just was what you needed. Like, do you have a time or a place that you can kind of think of that was a story, something, I don't know, that felt inspirational from nature?
There's so many. My husband and I love national parks. We love to camp. So if I go back, I remember we'd spent the night in a tent in Yellowstone, and we woke up. And I heard this really interesting sound. I was like, I don't know what that is. Joel, what is that? He's like, I don't know. So we unzipped the tent, and I looked out, and I looked like right into the face of an elk. I was like, hi. And he was just eating like next to our tent. I was like, hi. And I went back inside and zipped it back up. And it was a moment of just awe of how beautiful it was and how we were both like I wasn't bugging him. I wasn't in his space. He wasn't hurting me, or she, I don't know. I didn't actually look, he or she. But we were just both enjoying the outside. And I was in awe of the size of this animal and its gentle nature, though it clearly could have stomped us. I don't know. It was just a big, like, whoo, moment, because it was right literally in my face. Also, for my 50th birthday, I invited some of my girlfriends, and I brought my husband along too, and we did the Grand Canyon from the North Rim, down across the bottom and out to the south as a hike. That was my birthday party. And the overwhelming beauty, it's probably one of my favorite places that I've ever been, because it is, I mean, you see pictures of it, but until you stand there and look at it, and then you get down in it and you understand like the habitat and the animals and the flowers and the cat, like it was literally snowing on us, and it was 20 degrees. And in 1 hour we were peeling off our clothes, and it was 75 degrees. And then it was 105 degrees. And we went from snow to cactuses, and it was a sensory overload. And it was, I mean, I lived on that experience I probably still do when I think about it. It was just inspiring. And I was there with all my girlfriends and my husband experiencing it, and it was amazing. And then most recently, after, being anchored to our house for so long, my husband and I took our mountain bikes and we went to the Great Smoky Mountains. On the way, we stopped and did some mountain biking in a little park in Tennessee that's considered to be a pretty nice place to mountain bike. And it was so good. I mean, I was like following him through the woods and going over rocks and, you know, between trees and roots. And I was just in a flow. Like my heart rate was high. I could smell nature. It was beautiful. There was like a giant tom turkey and some deer just standing there watching us ride by. And it just felt so, I just felt more anchored, and I felt full and happy. And I don't think even a downpour or anything could have ruined my spirit. It was just such a nice day.
Love those stories. You know, there's those moments, those peak moments in nature that really, you know, you were talking about all your senses being fully alive and fully opened. And it's like when we're able to be in those spaces, it's so nurturing, right? It's just, there's this moment of clarity. It's like you said, even a rainstorm, a thunderstorm wouldn't have bothered you. A lot of things wouldn't have bothered you in that moment, right? Just because it was just this perfect temperature, space, time to be in. And so I'm wondering, as we shift into technically what you've been through this past year and kind of making the shift in your business from thoughtful threads for the heart into incorporating the environmental aspects of your business, shifting from, and maybe there are some relationships, some stories there, your understanding, your love of nature, your time spent in nature, places you've been in nature, and then this awareness of how you were running your business. Like, just kind of talk about that. Like, what made you decide that? Like, was there a particular event or a statistic or an article or something, you know, like what caused that shift?
Yes. As you said, we do love nature. My husband and I travel a lot. We've done some rainforests in Costa Rica a couple times. We've done some rafting in Costa Rica. And so when you see these little tiny bright red dart frogs and these amazing, you know, monkeys up in the canopy, and you experience the wonder that our planet has, and then you start reading the statistics of what we are doing to it. And, you know, I'll bring it down to this, to what's most important to me, what we do to the planet for a t-shirt. It's like, it's a t-shirt. And I think, you know, arguably, how many t-shirts do we need? I mean, I don't know. And it's a t-shirt. I mean, are we supposed to just take it for granted because it's just a t-shirt? And realizing the impact that the apparel industry has on all these things I love, and the thought that, you know, the water wouldn't be clean, or that those little frogs may someday disappear. I don't know, just, it made me ache a bit. So I need to tell people the story. I need to tell everyone that globally, there are over 2 billion t-shirts purchased annually. It's the most popular garment. We all own more than we probably should, me for sure. But over 2 billion t-shirts are purchased every year. And the typical t-shirt, which ours are not typical, but the typical t-shirt takes 713 gallons of water to produce. That's insane. So there's some quick math on that, and you start to realize what a waste it is if you just keep doing things the same way. And thankfully, there are companies that have put into a lot of research and figured out better ways, more sustainable ways to do it. And I think one of the things that, until you're informed, you might think, well, the best thing to buy is an organic cotton t-shirt, because an organic cotton t-shirt, you know, that's the best thing for the world. It's really not. I mean, cotton is the most thirsty crop there is. And if it's not organic, it is the #1 crop worldwide for pesticide use. So if you think about, and I want to make sure I have all my numbers right, because there's a lot of numbers here. There are 22.7 million tons 22.7 million tons of cotton produced worldwide, 1% of that's organic. So only 1% of that cotton is raised without pesticides. So if you consider 99% of 22.7 million tons of crop using the highest amount of pesticides of any other crop grown, that's a tad heartbreaking. And these are companies that, for the most part, they're not, checked up on. That water goes somewhere, goes into our rivers, it goes back into the ocean. That's
Cheryl, let me
Yeah.
just interject. Will you be able to give us some resources?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Do-
afterwards, and we'll be able to publish that when we get this up on the YouTube channel.
I sure will. I sure will.
Thank you.
So if you indulge me, I did write down the life of a t-shirt. And if you let me just kind of share that with you, I think you'll be as shocked as I am. So where is I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. So it starts on a farm, likely in the United States, China, or India. The seeds are planted, lots and lots of water, lots and lots of pesticides. Then a machine harvests the cotton. A machine separates the cotton boll, the fluffy part, from the rest. And then a machine takes all that fluffy cotton and smushes it into a 500-pound bale. And then those 500-pound bales of cotton are put on a truck, and they are sent to let me make sure I have this right. Yeah. Then they're sent to either China or India, where they are turned into yarn. Then that yarn is shipped to a mill where it's woven to a kind of real rough, grayish fabric that is then bleached and steamed until it becomes soft and white. And then at that point, the mill says, okay, we have this soft white fabric. If it's going to become a white t-shirt, then it gets further bleached with chlorine bleach. If it's going to be dyed, it goes over here and it gets dyed. And in most cases, those bright, vibrant colors, referring to, Julie, your brightly colored fabrics for quilting, those bright colors are typically connected to chemicals that are carcinogenic. They're not good for people. They're not good for the environment. So then all of that fabric that's either been bleached again or dyed is transported. So more trucks, more trains, more ships. It's sent to, make sure I have this right, Bangladesh, Turkey, India, or China, where it's sewn by laborers. Bangladesh employs roughly 4.5 million people that sit and sew t-shirts. And in most cases, they're not paid fairly or treated properly, but that's their job and that's the best they hope for. So that's what they do. So then the shirts are sewn, and from those 4 countries, they get on more trucks, more trains, more planes, and more ships, and they make their way to a distributor. And then from the distributor, it gets on more trucks, more trains, more planes, and gets to a retailer. And it's estimated that the typical t-shirt travels 16,000 miles from its source to its retail. So I wanted to find a company that had a tighter transportation loop to lower the emissions, and took care of its workers and took into account its practices and what it made its t-shirts out of. And that's how I found All Made. And they're an impressive company. It's 10 people that worked in the t-shirt industry. Some of them were decorators, I believe, printers. And they set out to come up with a shirt that was good to print on, because sometimes when you get into the sustainable stuff, it's a little harder for people to print on. So they came up with a really great blend, a shirt that is high quality, is better for the environment by what it's made of. So their particular shirt is 50% recycled plastic bottles, and 25% US organic cotton, and 25% tencel modal. And so modal comes from the pulp of a beech tree. And the beech trees are in forests that are carefully managed, and they do not harvest more than the trees are regenerating. So they don't harvest at a greater rate than they are growing. So in most cases, because they're managed and they're controlled and certified, these forests are actually growing. But they harvest. Yes.
Cheryl, I think, Julie, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, I'm looking up because I didn't realize I unmuted again. Jesus. I have done a lot of this too, and I came up with All Made. Did you also look at, hang on, I was just looking up to make sure I said the name right. Same thing, the district RETEE.
I actually have some district RETEEs.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I do. But and at this point on my site, I probably have in my inventory, I probably have about 400 items that are not of the sustainable line. I'm hoping that all that takes care of itself by the end of the year. And I can say by 2022 that all of my inventory is sustainable. But I do have some of the district RETEEs. District also has my sweatshirts are district because they're recycled. But I do lean to All Made because of their message and what they do in their plants. So their plants are in Honduras and in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. And so these people traveled to Haiti and they looked at the poverty and they looked at the child abandonment issues and said, what can we do in this community to try to break that cycle? And so they partnered with different companies. And again, because of where they're located in Haiti and what did I just say? I forgot. I'm blanking. Where they're located, they're very close to Miami. So we're not on planes, and it's not these long cargo ship travels back and forth from China. They even have a plant in Tennessee. So a lot of their production actually occurs in the United States. The cutting and some of the sewing and so forth happens in Haiti. And where did I say? I'm just blanking at the moment.
Honduras.
Honduras, thank you. So in those communities, they've built and partnered and created these areas, these plants where these people are employed and they're paid in some cases 3 and 4 times the local wage. They provide daycare. And if any of the employees are interested, they can finish their education and get their high school diploma through the company on site. And they really want to try to uplift this population. They provide vocational training, opportunities to move up in the company. So overall, I love the message. I love what this company does. And they're, to the best of my knowledge, they have been extremely transparent in their efforts in telling all of us how they go about and how much money they save and what they're, I'm sorry, not money, but water they save and their emissions reduction. And so that's why I lean to them. And I think it's funny. I had somebody say to me a few weeks ago, well, it'll be nice when you get some different colors, like, because your t-shirts are all kind of the same colors. And I said, I don't know if that's going to happen because those bright colors they happen with dyes that aren't good. And so if you look at a lot of the companies, District as an example, you're not going to find in recycled garments or sustainable eco-friendly garments bright yellow. I mean, you're going to find maybe a cornflower yellow. You'll find blues and burgundies and olive colors because those dyes are more friendly to the environment. So that's, to answer your question, that's why I lean to All Made for a majority of my garments, but I do love District as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. And I did, as I was looking at, it's a big rabbit hole and I could talk about it for hours. And I've kind of forgotten a little bit of it because it was a year and a half ago when I went down through everything. But I read all the Eileen Fisher reports and I did all of that on sustainability and how to do that. And when you get into, which is slightly different than your t-shirts, is when you get into your quilting fabrics and anything that has a design on it, you're going into the screen printing and every pass of a color is washed. And so the amount of water that goes into it just on the design production. And so there is a bigger and bigger movement to do digital printing in the quilting world. And that way there's no water involved. Designers love it because you don't have a repeat. Or you're familiar with repeats. I don't know the other people on the, you only have a certain thing that you can repeat, but it's really, but unfortunately the quilting industry is doing it because of the design and the cost. They are not really looking at it yet from a sustainability standpoint. Kind of, but not really. So it's a little discouraging.
Well, it was interesting when I started this path, I went to my screen printer and I said, so I'm about to make this big move to be eco-friendly. So we need to talk about the ink you guys are putting on my shirts. And at the time they said, well, you know, we kind of looked at some of that stuff, but it's really expensive and it's not consistent results. And I was like, okay, well, good to know. I'm going to start looking around and see if I can find another solution. But, you know, thanks. Very shortly after that meeting, I got a call. And so this particular screen printer that I use, they do a lot of work for Adidas. So Adidas had contacted them and said, hey, we're going to need you to investigate a more eco-friendly printing method. To which I was like, oh, you'll do it for Adidas and not me. Fine, you know. But
yeah, money talks.
Right, doesn't it? Yeah, they print a lot more stuff than I do. And so it was great because here was this super cool thing that happened where I thought it was going to be an obstacle, but Adidas showed up and said, we need you to print eco-friendly. And then I benefited from it. So once upon a time, like if you go back in the beginning when I was printing my shirts, I wasn't thinking about what was being put down. I wasn't thinking about the PVC and I wasn't thinking about the phthalates. And to your point, the more passes, the more ink, the more processing, all those things. So I really strive to have all of my designs be one color.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah.
And there's no base. So like we're not laying down this like opaque plastic gross stuff so that then my design sits on top and has this beautiful pop. I mean, it really is, they're as safe as I can get at this time. I mean, I'm not going to say like you can't take what's on there and call it, you know, no harm. Because all the containers of pretty much any dye or anything like that, they're going to say, you know, if you get it in your eyes, wash it out immediately and don't breathe and use it in a ventilated area. So we're not there yet, but at least the process I use now is no PVC, no phthalates. So that's already safer. And then on my end, I really strive to just have a good design that doesn't rely on a bunch of colors and you know, to make it cool. I just try really hard to do like one color, good message, keep it clean. You know, that's my plan. That's how I try to keep it clean.
This is great, Sheryl. I think this is a good time for us to take about a 5-minute break and think about if you have any other questions or anything else, Sheryl, that you meant to say that you didn't get out yet, but I've got some questions written down myself. So let's just take about a 5-minute break and we'll see you shortly.
So Sheryl, one of my other things that I have crammed into my life, because I've crammed a lot into it, is I am responsible for getting the logo t-shirts for the Extension Master Naturalist. Mm-hmm. And so I tried really hard to bring sustainable stuff in for people to order. But my problem was finding something like we have the Columbia dry fit type, not that has a collared shirt. I could not find anything like that I felt was sustainably produced. Have you found, I guess you wouldn't even look at that because you're only going to look at t-shirts, right?
No, because I mean, not at all. I would be happy to help you with that because the freelance, my day job that funds this and helps me has to do with a lot of garment sourcing, embroidery.
Oh, okay. All right.
I do that for like sports teams, like the Heartland Youth Rugby League. And so I'm I can source any of that stuff for you that you would like. So you're looking for like a polo, like a collared shirt?
It's the, several of the men like to wear them. It's a longer collared shirt, but it's the real lightweight, so it breathes really well and wicks well. But for whatever reason, they like having the collared shirts and the long button sleeves. They like that design better. And so that one I could not find. So I would be interested in talking to you later about. And we offered our options that we offered on the t-shirts. I'm sorry, I was searching for my spreadsheet. We had the district re-tee, we had the all made, and then I thought I found a Hanes that was partial recycled, but I'm not seeing it in my notes.
Well, one thing I learned is that this, eco-friendly is a sliding scale.
Oh boy. And so deceptive at times.
Yes.
So deceptive.
There's one company, and I'm not going to use their name, but I had sourced some garments from them. And when I finally located their stance on sustainability and eco-friendly practices, I was like, so basically you recycle. Like they don't recycle like in their break room. They don't do anything. They don't even apologize or try. So I was like, yeah, they're done. And then I noticed companies like Hanes and some of those, they do like just enough to say it, which is why I went with All Made, because All Made just, they wear their values. And I lean toward them. I will say that, and you've probably heard of Bella Canvas. So Bella Canvas, they're not exactly fair trade, and they're not doing a lot of things that All Made does. However, they have gone to crazy great lengths to really get their production dialed in. So the steam that they use, they recapture the steam.
Oh, okay.
They use that steam to power other portions of the process. I mean, they really have tightened that up, and it's an impressive statement. And Sammy, when I send you some links, I'll include a video of the Bella Canvas difference, their process. And I have some Bella Canvas garments on my site, but I do only use their tri-blends that have the recycled fabric.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, so I want to continue on that topic because it's actually one of the topics I had written down to talk about when we came back is, how you decide which vendor you're going to use. And there's this awareness that my heart always wants to go with the company that's very transparent, really fair trade, really giving back to the community, really taking a look at their environmental impact. It's kind of the whole benefit corporation 200-point checklist that they have on how to run a sustainable business. And so there's this other component though of, I remember the time my husband brought home a package of tissues, and they were probably Kleenex, but they might have been puffs, and they were made out of recycled paper. And I forget which brand it was. And he's like, if you won't use them, I'll take them back. But I wanted to let you know they're doing this because they're doing this. And what occurred to me was, yeah, it's a little bit of greenwashing because we know the rest of their business, nothing else about their business speaks from the heart, right? But they've gotten someone's attention, someone's gotten their attention. And so if it's the first step that they've taken, I applaud that. I applaud because that's where it has to start, is with the first step, right? So the other piece that I had on this, but I think it's really important, Sheryl, the fact that you've said, no, the people I'm going to do business with, because that's part of the benefit corporation component also, is who are your vendors? Who are you sourcing your materials from, and how are they running their business? And so I think the more vocal that we are, and especially like thinking about your screen printing company, to be just really open and say, here's what's really important to me when I run my business. And so I am going to have to go look further. And just to be for people who are thinking about making that step, and you've got all these other gazillion things to think about, being able to really speak up and say, this is of great value to me, is the way the change is going to happen, right? It's the way we're going to get to the tipping point.
I agree.
So the other thing I want to talk a little bit about is the materials that you chose are made from recycled plastics, right? Plastic bottles, organic cotton, and the beech tree pulp, right? So the thing with organic cotton is, even if it's grown organically, it's still using organic herbicides, which kill plants like, I don't know, milkweeds, and organic pesticides, which still kill insects, right? Still kill pollinators. Like, that's the whole point. So the organic piece is, well, then the runoff isn't so bad for soil quality. The runoff is, not going to harm water and that kind of thing. But there's still this impact on pollinators, on wildlife, and on air quality, because there's still pesticides and herbicides. So I think the concept of even reducing that down by using recycled materials, which is fantastic, and also being able to use new methods of forestry that really take a look at sustainable forestry practices. I just like that, and it's something I really hadn't. I'd heard you talk to me before about, how you chose this company and that particular fabric, but other than saying, oh, that's cool, I hadn't really considered the implications of why it's important. So, yeah. So anything you want to add on anything, or anybody else have any other questions?
Well, I would like to add that, to your point, like when I read where your values, I'm a big stickler for consistency in behavior, in values, in, tell the truth, transparency. So when I found that company and I read that they helped people get an education and they paid 3 to 4 times the local wage, and they even, I love this too, because in some of the places where these people live, there isn't clean drinking water. So this company provides containers and says, while you're here at work, fill this container with clean drinking water and take it home to your family. Like that's getting down on the granular level and really making a difference. And for sure, like, it's not, as a company trying to make that big shift, those shirts are more expensive, so my margin got a little smaller, but I also feel better about it. And there was a moment where I thought, well, maybe I'll just charge more for the shirt. Well, but then I'm not, yes, I'm going to make that extra $1 or $2, which over the course of however many shirts I sell does add up. But I would rather I'd rather sell more shirts than sell fewer with a bigger margin. So then I'm getting my message out better. And that just seemed to make more sense to me. The one thing I wanted to make sure I discussed was the recycled plastic piece, because some people have said to me, well, but plastic's bad. Like, correct, plastic is bad. But it's really bad when it's floating in our ocean. I'm sorry, I thought I had it turned off. My apologies.
It's fine.
I think I only turned it off on my phone. Darn it. Struggling. Anyway, so it's really bad if the plastic bottles are floating in the ocean, right? Because they're still going to float in the ocean and they're still going to make polyester. So now we've got bottles in the ocean and we're using more petroleum products to make more plastic, to make more polyester. So at least these guys are saying, let's take the bottles and keep them out of the ocean. Let's turn them into fabric. And that way we're not using more petroleum products to make more polyester, and we can get the bottles out of the ocean. So I think there comes this notion of, it's not a no harm, it's reduce the harm and try to balance that as well with a benefit. So we've got them out of the ocean and we're not making more polyester, so we're doing good, you know. And if someone says, well, I just can't have plastic. Okay, well then we offer an organic cotton shirt for you if you feel better about that. But it really is trying to find that balance. And I think when you add the fact that we're, you know, they are recycling, they're doing good things with that. The cotton, yeah, it's 25% because they recognize that there are pesticides and things being used with even the organic cotton. But the tinsel modal is this amazing fabric. And if you've not had anything made out of tinsel, like, go find it, because it is like the softest. It feels so good next to your skin, and you can feel good about it being next to your skin. And if you think about it from a health standpoint, your skin is your biggest organ, right? So if you put this shirt on and you're going to wear this around for the next 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, it's touching your body. It's touching your biggest organ. You need to know what the heck it's made out of, because it's sitting there like laying on all your pores, right? And so I feel good selling a shirt that keeps some bottles out of the ocean, keeps them from making more plastic. I feel really good about the quality of the cotton. I feel very good about the modal, because I know that it's very sustainable, the way they process it, the way they harvest it. It also is awesome for travel. I don't know if you have folded that shirt yet, but it doesn't hold creases. So tinsel is amazing. It is crease resistant. It washes well. We haven't even talked about the fact that when you wash something, the particulates that break off and go into the water system, you know, sure, this is 50% plastic, but it's also not a fleece. It's not likely to pill and come off and float out into the waterway. But 25% of it is modal. So it's not going to do that. It's not going to particulate off in your water and head out into our rivers and our oceans. So again, I picked it because they actually care. And so.
So let me ask you, what is the end of life? Oh, sorry, Julie, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that when you start researching this, you become so depressed, you think that you should just be naked all the time. But then that is such a burden on everybody else that it's just really hard.
Well, and I think too, if you buy a quality shirt, it'll be around for a while.
Well, and that's the idea, is to get rid of fast fashion. And
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
yeah. So anyway, sorry, Sammy.
No, it's okay. So what is the end of life of your t-shirts then? Like,
So-
what can people do? So once it's torn or stained, or they outgrew it in either direction or whatever. What is the best thing for people to do with them?
I don't think we're where we can bury them and expect them to return to the earth, because they are 50% plastic. I suspect you could take the 100% organic cotton and bury it, and it would go back to the earth. But I think avoiding fast fashion, which if you are not familiar with that term, fast fashion basically says it's cheap, it's trendy, and it's disposable. So after all this research, I go through Target with a completely different mindset. Like, I don't look at that and go, oh my God, that's a super cute shirt, I'll have it this summer and then I'll donate it, or it will end up in a landfill. I just don't do that. And thankfully, being an outdoorsy person, I tend to buy more Patagonia and, you know, long living type garments. But I think the nicer the garment, the more likely you are to keep it and to wear it, or to, if you outgrow it, you just pass it to somebody else that could still wear it. I have had people send me photos where they've taken their t-shirts and made them into like little backpacks or sacks or pillows, or they've done other things with them. At minimum, they become a dust rag because they're not scratchy. They're soft, and you can, I mean, I've taken some of my old t-shirts, because I've been doing this a while. I cut them up and I use them to clean. And at this house, we don't use paper towels. and we don't use Kleenexes. And so sometimes those end up as little rags that we use in the kitchen or in the garage, or we blow our nose on them and we wash them and throw them out. And so they continue to live in other ways. Yeah, they're great to clean up if the dog gets sick because we don't have paper towels and you can wash them. So.
Okay, that's great. And I know Julie could tell you stories about kids' projects, turning old T-shirts into shopping bags and some different things that I know you've worked on too.
Yeah, it's a huge process.
Mhm.
And then you think you're doing good by donating it, and then it all ends up in Africa, and then that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah. All right.
I could talk about, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I could talk about why you would want to try blend over, because I think sometimes there's a quick reaction to, oh, no, I want cotton because that's natural. I don't want to try blend. But ultimately that tri blend shirt is going to live, like I said, live longer. It's not going to break down in the washing machine. You're going to wear it. It's softer. It's better for the environment. So I think that's one of those little messages that I would like to start pushing to people is, choose the tri blend. You think you want cotton because it's natural. And that is the story that the cotton people like to tell you. But the tri blend, I wrote down some numbers I would like to share. And this is on the All Made website. So if you take 100 t-shirts, and we'll just say 100 typical t-shirts, so like the Gildan cotton, the free one you get at the 5K that nobody wants. So 100 of those t-shirts requires 71,300 gallons of water for 100 t-shirts. The All Made cotton t-shirt, because of their processing, including like the tighter transportation loop and just their own dye processes and so forth, it only uses 32,338. So from 71,000 to 32,000, less than half. But if you go to the tri blend, which has the recycled plastic, which uses 94% less water than having to create a new polyester, the modal, which beech trees have only 6% of the environmental impact of cotton. So now you're looking at a tri-blend t-shirt, 100 tri-blend t-shirts uses 7,600 gallons of water. So even an organically, sustainably, thoughtfully produced cotton shirt is 32,000 gallons, and a tri-blend is 7,600. So just shifting away from cotton and starting to look at things like modal and bamboo and some of those other things is a big shift.
Yeah, and the other thing that I hadn't mentioned before, besides the pesticides and herbicides, is land use and all the whole monoculture and habitat destruction to grow more crop, just simply to make things like t-shirts. And so, whereas at least the beech tree, I've seen, been in places where there's farmed trees, and it's a little bizarre. They're a little weird. Although I haven't really researched on the beech trees how they're doing those, but at least there's habitat growing there. And especially if they're sustainably harvested, it's still habitat for, birds and insects and other wildlife, as well as, water retention and all these things that just don't happen on a crop, where thousands of acres are just destroyed land, and water runoff and everything. So very interesting. Anybody else, any comments before we move on? Okay, thank you. This is great, Sheryl. So my question to you is, how does it feel to know that when we spoke, I decided you met the definition of a visionary activist? And what does that mean? Like, how do you think about yourself in that way, or do you, or,
Well, I think when you first told me about the program, I felt that that was something I could aspire to. And the more we talked and the more I thought about it, I realized I was already one. And I don't know how to explain that. I just, when you first talked about when we were talking about the rebranding, I was like, oh, that sounds like something I could aspire to, And then as we talked, it's like, oh, I guess, and even in preparing for today, I thought about, I guess I have been a bit of a visionary throughout my life on different topics. Clearly, I've been a bit of an activist. So I think it's empowering. And just as the same emotions that come up when I think about changing the lives of the people in that gym, making them feel strong, making them feel confident, that feeling of giving someone that gift, it feels great. And so then to bring that into another area of my life and, tell someone like, yeah, you really don't need to buy that shirt at Target. You've got tons of shirts. Or, hey, how about a shirt that's thoughtful? How about a shirt that actually cares about the environment? And then when you're done with it, it can be your Kleenexes, or it can be a dust rag. Or how about thinking about the people that sewed it, that they actually can take home fresh water to their family? I mean, how about thinking about that? And I like being empowered with that knowledge to pass that on to other people and help them make those little changes.
Okay. So what's next for you?
In the short term, I need to finish my activist shirt design so I can get it out.
Tell us about that, and tell us about the little special thing you're doing for the resilient activist with your activist shirt.
Yeah. So just like this one says unite, and it's a big U, like, come on, you're the one that has to help the uniting. So I have another one that's similar, and it says activist, and act is the big letters, because it's one thing to say you're an activist, and it's another thing to actually act upon it. So I have one that looks like that. And then I have another that I'm working on, and it's sort of like the coexist stickers you've seen, where all the different symbols make up the word coexist. I have an activist one I'm working on, where the A is a tree, the C is an ocean wave. And so it's all the things that we need to be activists about. So I'm working on that. It's just a cute little illustration, and I'm just not done with it. I was hoping to have it done for today, and I just did not get all of the things done. So,
well, that's so sweet, because long term, you've created a discount code that the resilient activists can put on our website. Do you want to talk about that?
You bet, because I want to keep spreading the word. And I think that this is a really good message, whether we're uniting for, we just need to unite, hard stop. I think this shirt, everyone should have one. And to help that happen, I gave Sammy a discount code. So today, actually, those of you that are on the call, if you will email Sammy your size and whether you want a unisex cut or a women's cut, I will ship you a free shirt that looks like this. Well, actually, it looks like hers, because this is a white one. It looks like hers. So I'll ship you those for being on the call today. And then long-term, the resilient activist is forever going to have their own shopping code to use when they go shopping on our website.
Yeah, and we'll publish that when we get the video uploaded. We'll have that code on there, so anybody can go in and get a discount. And yeah, I think that's very generous. So thank you, Sheryl.
And it doesn't,
thank you.
Doesn't expire. There's no expiration date, and there's no limit to your number of times you can use it. So you could come back in 2 years, it'll still be there.
Cool. All right. So what else is next? Like, is there anything else that you're still like, oh, I still need to do this, or this is still in the back of my mind, or still tugging at my heartstrings? Or do you feel like you're in a good place and now it's just, let's move the business along?
I think it's let's move the business along. I need to figure out how to get the word out. I mean, like I said, social media is great, but I think everybody's on it. And in a world where people just scroll, it's hard to stand out. I'm going to start doing some newsletters, not newsletters per se. I shouldn't call it that. It's an email blast that's going to have a feature, and then harken back to this, what we're doing today, with a link that's going to launch it. And then it's going to have a tip, like, you know, a climate tip, like how to be a better eco-minded human being. So little tidbits like that, and then probably feature a different garment or a design. So I'm going to try to get to where those are coming out at least every 2 weeks. That's a goal. And then I've been looking at the B Corp stuff. I know that that's a long ways. I know, you inspired me, Sammy. It's it's probably down the road, because a lot of other things have to happen for me to ever qualify, but I think that's a reasonable 5-year goal. I think my husband and I are currently looking to buy some land, just to have and to play on, and go build a little something on it, and camp and take our dogs there, mountain bike and play. And if I had my way, I would probably build a little building, and I would put solar panels on it, and I would make it just this little amazing eco-friendly happy house where I have my little shirt business, and someday figure out how to print them.
I've got a farm at Fort Scott. You can use one of the barns.
That's a tad bit of a commute, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sammy, I'm sorry, what is B Corp?
Okay, so there's kind of two components. There's a company can become a certified B Corp, which is short for benefit corporation, and that's a process by a nonprofit that the whole program started with Ben and Jerry's ice cream. So
Okay.
Ben and Jerry's, publicly traded company, with all of their environmental processes they went through and the social good that they were doing, because they were publicly traded, when they had an offer from Sara Lee to buy their company, they were required by law to accept it because it was going to benefit their shareholders. Like, there was no other consideration. And Sara Lee then could do whatever they wanted with that company. They could decide not to make it organic. They could decide not, whatever, not to do some of the good philanthropic processes. So there was a number of businesses on the East Coast that said, well, we don't want that to happen to our company. And so there were these two components now. So one is, the first is they created an organization that came up with 200 questions that any business can fill out to determine, you get points, you get a point for how you answer the different questions. And it's a 200 points worth. It might not be 200 questions, but 200 points worth. And it encompasses everything from how you treat your employees, and what's the wage disparity between the highest and lowest paid employee, and what are the benefit disparities, and what kind of family leave or family processes do you have. It goes into how the company treats the community around them. And, from things like, if it's a manufacturing site, and there's two different ones, one for manufacturing companies and one for more service companies. So it's kind of different questionnaires. But, so if you're concerned with manufacturing about the water quality that's coming out of your pipes, or air quality, because typically industrial sites will be in low income neighborhoods, right? So anyway, so there's questions about how you treat your community. There's questions about your vendors and who you get your vendors, how you evaluate your vendors, about your in-house products. So do you use recycled paper? Do you recycle in your lunchroom? How are you kind of running your back office? And then looking at your products and how those are being manufactured, or kind of a cradle to cradle for a business. And so typically, so you have to have 85 points to be considered a certified B Corp. I think the typical company that comes in when they first do a pass through, it's like they have like 45 points. Like these are companies that think they were doing a great job, you know. And so, but once you get on board, you're assigned a like a coach, someone that, you know, part of the certified B Corp organization, and they literally look at all your answers and they help you do the low hanging fruit. They help you decide from your own business perspective and plan what the next thing could be so that you gradually over time increase your point score. And then so you'll see companies, I don't have anything here, that'll have a capital B in a circle on it, like a logo. And that means they're a certified benefit corporation. The other piece that started a few years later is the legal entity of a B Corp. So like you have an S Corp, a C Corp, you actually have that legal entity. And so it's not in every state. The last I heard, it was not a valid business entity in Kansas, but that might have changed. I haven't checked in a while. But that's in your letter, your articles of incorporation that you set out. These are the things that are of value to my business. And so even if that business gets sold, that's part of the articles of incorporation that go with that business. So whoever buys it has to continue to provide, you know, whatever the environmental and social justice impacts are. So it's pretty cool.
And that's a federal regulation?
Yeah. It's
Cool.
part of
I
that.
didn't realize the whole selling and merger thing, that it was part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
That's the whole point of that. It took them a little while to either, because they started off just with this point system, you know, kind of, that's kind of the carrot, you know, is how
Mhm.
can we help businesses be more transparent and help them understand what the next step is they could take. And then the actual corporate designation puts some legal punch to it, you know.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. Okay, how's our time here? We have a little bit of time. So the Resilient Activist has an upcoming Visionary Activist workshop that we're doing on May 22nd. It's 4 hours. And I'm just wondering, thinking about the terms visionary activists and kind of what images or ideas that bubbles up. Is there anything, Sheryl, for you or even Julie or Ann, I know you're signed up for it to take the workshop, but is there anything that from a visionary activist perspective would help you? You know, like what, whether it's something the Resilient Activist could offer or, you know, is there something else that would help you kind of embrace and embody that visionary activism to the next level?
I don't know. I wouldn't know what to ask for. I think the thing I always look for is that organic growth of a company by recommendations, or obviously this is a terrific opportunity. It's a platform to share and the story and get people to just ponder their clothes that they put on and to think about what they're wearing. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to ask for. I think anytime I can create connection, like if there was a chance to be at any of your events or to donate or provide, you know, a discount code or provide giveaways or garments, just again, it's whatever I can do to elevate that awareness, whether it's to buy one of our garments or just think about what someone is spending their money on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I wouldn't know what to ask for.
That's perfect. That's perfect, Cheryl. Ann, you had something?
Well, I was just thinking it kind of goes back to my question of Sheryl at the beginning of just how she, you know, what kind of helped her as she, you know, stepped through those obstacles. And I think about for a lot of us, those obstacles we haven't gotten around them. And so I see that connection and that opportunity to have these discussions through this and, you know, maybe longer term as now things are opening up more and being able to meet together, but to just really have those opportunities to build connections with people like you, Cheryl, so that those of us that have maybe felt like we've just keep hitting these roadblocks or we just don't really know how to take that next step, which, Sammy, that's what I believe your program, is really to help us do that, is that, you have the teaching, but you also have the opportunity to have mentoring or just discussions to really be able to empower those of us that maybe have these ideas, figure out, okay, how do we take that next step? Because Cheryl, you've done that a lot of different times, not just one time with one business, but you've started a lot of different things. And so I think there's a lot of people that just need that, okay, here you go. And it's not simple or anything, but if you can have more connection, perhaps you can have more, I don't know what the word is, but just encouragement and support of, okay, I can take this step. I feel confident enough that I can go out and take that next step. And I think some people are, just kind of missing that ability to just, okay, let's go, time to jump, something like that. So.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, I get it. And I know, like, this kind of gets into the next question for Cheryl. What advice do you have for others who have a vision? But, especially the component of feeling like you're not enough, you shouldn't, or you don't have the qualifications or the background or the whatever it is. And just, I don't know, Cheryl, have you personally had those internal dialogues with yourself about some of those topics, and what would you recommend to people then?
Absolutely. I don't think you can get through this life without questioning your ability to do fill in the blank. I don't think that's even possible. And so forgive me, I'm going to use like a personal example and obviously an athletic metaphor, because I mean, at the core, I'm a creative individual, but I'm also an athlete. And I believe that athletics are an excellent metaphor for life. I mean, you sign up for a marathon and the first day you go out to train for that, you don't go run 26 miles. You run a couple miles and it sucks. It doesn't feel good. And then you go out the next time and you run a couple miles and eventually you run 4. And then one day you run 6. And then, and over time you develop the confidence to look at your training program and go, oh, my Lord, I'm supposed to run 13 miles today. But you just tell yourself, well, you just ran 11. And the week before that, you ran 12. So really, this is a question of 1 mile. Like, you've already done 11 or 12, you can do 1. And then over time, I think you have to somehow, whether it's with a business coach or it's connections like this, but you surround yourself with people that when you forget how awesome you are, they're there to remind you. And so in my past, I've done a couple of Ironman races. And I remember the day I was thinking about signing up for one, and a friend of mine said, well, can you swim? Like, yeah. Can you swim that far? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I could train and do that. Well, can you ride your bike? Well, yeah. And you can run. Yeah, I could run that. Okay, we'll just put them all together, and go do it. Like, you've trained, you can do this. You're fine. You've done the work. And when those doubts come in your head, you just say to yourself, you know what? I've done the work. I'm ready. I've thought about this. I've prepared for it. And you know what? And if along the way, the race isn't going as planned, you get a flat tire on your bike, or you find yourself with an upset stomach on the marathon, then you just slow down. You slow down, you look around, there's probably a friend there to give you an encouraging word or to help you change your flat tire. And the next thing you know, you're back on the road and you're good. And I think that's life. I think we all wake up some days, I know I do, and I'm like, heck yeah, I got this. Woo! And then I have other days where I'm like, who do I think I am? Like, why does anybody want to buy another stinking t-shirt on my website? You know? And I don't think you're normal if you don't have those moments. But I think at the end, what do you want? What do you want to do? How do you want to feel? What's the change you want to impart? What's the message you want to deliver? What's the legacy you want to leave? And if you just keep asking yourself those questions and maybe make little post-it notes and put them around to remind you why you get up and do this every day. And I think you'd do it, but I think it has to do with support and calling upon past successes. I mean, sometimes I have to reach in my pocket and go, remember that time you did a good job, pull it out and look at it and remember that you did a good job and put it back in your pocket and then give it another try. Does that help? Is that
Great
anything?
metaphor. Anne, what about you? Did that help?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important is having those people around you that know you, that can help you see the things that you struggle to see in yourself or encourage you when those, you wake up that day and you say, what am I even thinking? Who am I to do these things? And just, have people there encouraging you to do that is really important to overcome that sort of resistance that you might have internally to things.
Well, I think we all have it. I mean, and again, forgive the athletic metaphor, but that's why they say in athletics that accountability brings success. Well, I would have to say that in business and really in any endeavor that you have, accountability brings success. So for instance, if I say to Sammy, I'm so excited, this dying tree, we're going to keep it, we're going to make it into art, we're going to grow some stuff on it, and we're going to make it a little happy habitat for all these little critters. Well, I've told her that, so now I'm accountable that if Sammy ever comes to my house, I better not have cut the tree down and I better have actually done the things that I said because I created accountability by sharing that with Sammy. And when for instance, this afternoon, I might rather go take a nap or work in my garden and pull weeds, but I told a friend of mine that we would work out this afternoon. So I've created accountability and therefore this afternoon, my friend will show up and we will work out today. I might not feel like it, but I know that when I'm done, I'll be glad I did it. And I had a chance to talk with her and get the energy from that experience. And sometimes I think we can get in ourselves and get in our own head, and Lord knows we get in our own way. And sometimes if you just pause and have some quiet time and think about the successes you have had, and then the people that are within a phone call or an email or a text to tell you that you can do it. If you're doubting, take advantage of those relationships.
Yeah. So there's kind of two thoughts that I have. One is through the Resilient Activist, we are over this summer going to be building a new online community platform. We've just gotten started on that to be able to be in community with people. So I think this like-minded community, people that are uplifting and joyous, people that can look at you and see all your good qualities and and remind you that you have them all the time. So that's kind of something coming up that I'm not going to say any more about it than that because it's really, really early. But I think it's really important to be surrounded by people that uplift. Like when you were talking about your husband just saying, okay, now what are we doing now? And I can remember my husband looking at me, I forget what we were doing. I think I talked about not mowing the backyard and just rewilding the whole backyard. And, I said something like, I've made this, I've been thinking about not mowing the backyard and rewilding it. And he looked at me and he said, well, of course you are. I'm like, okay. He's like, of course, it's whatever the next thing is that you're going to do. And it's really so helpful to intentionally reach out and set yourself in those uplifting communities because it's really easy to be drawn back into the naysayers. The other thing I heard you say that I think is a really important resilience tool is if you get a flat tire or your stomach's upset, you can just slow down, right? Or you can even decide not to finish that race. Like that might not be the right race for you today. And And it may be that you never need to finish it, or if you finish it, you do not need to be the trophy winner, right? You don't need to be in the top 3. And that's part of this whole, we embed a lot of meditation and mindfulness practices into everything that we teach. And it's a huge philosophy in the meditation arena of never holding on to the outcome, like just doing what bubbles up from your heart, finding the joy in that, finding the joy in the process and the path and whatever you learn, even if it's something you're not enjoying, right? Something you've gotten into that you're like, this job sucks, this relationship sucks, I can't stand my house, I don't have any place to garden, whatever. There's always something to learn. There's always something that you'll bring with you, even if it's learning what you never want to do again, or learning what kind of community you don't want to be part of. So this whole concept of simply giving it your all when it feels really good and really right to do it, without holding on to, without setting particular deadlines and goals and somebody else's scale of how impactful you are. Set your own scale and have it be set within a place that's full of resilience. So if your stomach's upset, right, that's body, like noticing how your body's reacting. If you get a flat tire, that might be mind, like, you just can't make something happen. Well, maybe you're not thinking about it right. So go out to nature and you're going to get a whole different perspective. Quit thinking about it. Quit trying to fit it into the spreadsheet, right? Because maybe it's not a spreadsheet thought. So, I think you kind of represented that whole component of having the vision, taking what your background and education and experience, good and bad, was, right? And shifting into what you saw. And it was one step at a time. Whatever you were ready for today and whatever fell in your lap, like Adidas, what falls into your lap, and just go with that if it feels good. And to just continue on that path, it's a great way to live. So I thank you for that.
You bet.
So tell people how they can get in hold of you.
Well, you can always email me, and it's Sheryl, SHERYL, at thoughtfulthreadsco, CO like company, .com. So thoughtfulthreadsco.com. You can always email me. Also, we're on social. We're on Instagram at Thoughtful Threads Co. Facebook. That's where we do a lot of release of like new designs and pictures and inspirational stuff. Yeah, I'm always happy to answer, and I will certainly, Julie, help you try to locate a garment with a collar that's long sleeved and see if we can find something sustainable. Figure that out, and yeah.
Great, thank you. I also need to get a birthday present for my friend for next Friday. So
you have a shopping code, assuming you don't want to give away the shirt that you're getting for yourself.
No, well, we're really different sizes. So
Can we give her the code now?
Yes, if I could remember. What did I tell you it was? I forgot
It's
now.
all capital letters, and it's just the word activist and then the number 15.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to she is a humanities teacher at the Kansas City Art Institute, but she's also the advisor for the Black Student Union, but she's Filipino. So I don't know how that all works. But anyway, so she tries to keep art, humanities, Black Student Union, Filipino, all up in the air.
Excellent. Well, you're also, both of you are local, so you don't have to do shipping. You can click will call or pick up. And then, Prairie Village is basically down the street from me, and Shawnee is not that far away. So I can either drop it on your porch, or you could swing by and.
Where do you live?
My shirts are actually in a space in downtown Old Overland Park at like.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm down from the clock tower on the 3rd floor in one of the buildings.
Oh,
so
okay.
Come there and pick it up and see my humble digs, or
I love that.
I'm happy to drop it on your porch.
No, I could come over and get one.
Okay.
That'd be great.
This has been great. Cheryl, do you have any last words of wisdom? Anything you want to say?
The only thing I was thinking about is as you were talking about the flat tire thing and reaching out and looking around for help, don't discount the fact too that the person that's going to help you change that tire will probably feel really good about the experience. So reaching out and asking for help is not something I'm very good at still. I used to be terrible at it. I just thought I could do it all. And that's such a lie. But you really rob somebody else of a really cool opportunity to either get to know you or help someone. And we all know how good it feels to help somebody. So if you don't ask for help, then you're robbing someone of the chance to help you. So it's a win-win if you just reach out.
Great philosophy. Thank you. Thank you
You
so
bet.
much. Julie Ann, anything else that you want to say? We're right at
Thank
time.
you so much for taking the time to share with us today. It's really great.
My pleasure.
Story.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
I really enjoyed the group. It was really fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, email me with the shirt size and what else do they have to tell me?
If they would like the women's cut or the unisex cut. And unisex is basically what they call a guy's shirt. And then the women's cut just has like a smaller sleeve, it's more of a scoop neck. It's a little more fitted.
Okay. So email me that and I'll send it to Cheryl and she'll get you your free t-shirt. Okay.
Hey,
All right.
thank
Thanks
you.
so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.